Stardust Racers is the signature new roller coaster at Universal's brand new Epic Universe theme park. This is a set of dueling Mack launch coasters with the most airtime of any coaster in Florida. This is a special ride that makes a strong case as the best attraction in all of Florida, and I will explain why in this review. This coaster's story begins in 1999. That was the year Universal Orlando opened Islands of Adventure, and one of the park's new headlining attractions was a unique dueling coaster known as Dueling Dragons. This was a duo of B&M inverts. One track was red and known as Fire Dragon. The other side was blue and known as the Ice Dragon. Both sides were intense and extremely well received, but their calling card were the near misses with the opposing tracks. This ride features some of the closest near misses ever devised. Flash forward to 2011. The ride's since been renamed Dragon Challenge to tie in with the wizarding world of Harry Potter, but this was the year when multiple riders were struck by loose articles. To mitigate this, Universal began staggering the dispatches so they no longer dueled. While the individual tracks were still strong, this essentially killed the ride's spirit. Universal added metal detectors to the attraction in 2015, so fans were optimistic they would consider dueling the two sides once again. Alas, that never happened. Then in 2011, Universal announced the coaster would close permanently. The park cited it was at the end of its service life, and they replaced it in 2019 with Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure. 2019 was also the year that Universal first announced Epic Universe. This would be the third theme park at the Orlando resort. In the concept artwork, a large dueling coaster was visible. This was shocking after the whole non-dueling dragons fiasco had just ensued. We later learned this would be a multi-launch coaster from Mack. This was a little surprising because Universal's two most recent thrill coasters in Hagrid's and Velocicoaster had both been built by Intamin, but Mack had built a handful of attractions for the chain through the years, just not a major thrill coaster. But Mack has proven themselves more than capable of building extreme, comfortable, reliable, high-capacity launch coasters over the past 1.5 decades. Construction began in 2022, and the ride was fully assembled in 2023, 2 years before the park would even open. Then the ride was spotted testing throughout 2024 to fine-tune the dueling mechanic. This ensured the coaster would be ready to open with the park in 2025 without any technical issues. The ride was originally supposed to be called Starfall Racers, but the name was challenged by the Starfall Education Foundation. Rather than enduring a lengthy lawsuit over a trademark infringement, Universal simply chose to rename the coaster as Stardust Racers, and honestly, I prefer this name. The coaster is part of Celestial Park. The story is that Celestians have captured comets and ride them to other worlds. Guests are then challenged to board one of the two comets and race to see which one is faster. It is a simple concept, but it works within the park's overall story. And who taught the Celestians how to harness the comets? Doc Brown. Hey, Scott! That's why the back of each train features an illuminated flux capacitor. It is a fun detail for movie fans such as myself. Beyond that, the trains are a work of art. The lead car is designed to resemble a speeding comet. The rest of the train has a sleek, multicolored paint scheme. The chassis are purple and blue for the night sky. These are complemented by golden accents and maroon seats. Then the trains are covered with stars. The trains certainly look cool by day, but they are truly stunning once the sun sets and are illuminated. The park very deliberately has little lighting around the ride itself, so it genuinely feels like you're riding through the night sky chasing the stars. The trains are easily the most themed part of this attraction. The initial launch tunnel is a rocky cavern filled with fog. Then the far turnaround wraps around a planet structure and whizzes past a bedazzled wall. Outside that, there is nothing to see alongside the track, but that's fine. That is because the opposing train is the theming element. Your eyes are constantly looking for the other train, which is usually running over, under, or next to you. The two tracks were brilliantly designed to maximize the dueling element. Watching this ride duel is just as exciting off-ride. The yellow track, which is known as Photon, and the green track, which is known as Pulsar, form a beautiful mess of track. It is mesmerizing watching this coaster cycle because you can't really tell where it's going to go next. You just see constant near misses and excited riders screaming on by you. The ride also has a cool entry sign bearing the ride's name with some comments. The latter are supposed to spin, but that was disabled or broken during my visit. Unfortunately, this was a recurring issue during my visit to Epic Universe. There were multiple things in each land that were supposed to move that were stationary. Hopefully this can be fixed in the future. This station is a long structure with an Art Deco aesthetic looking out towards the aforementioned planetary structure. I was a bit surprised there was not more to see inside the station itself. Instead, it relies on the excited energy of returning riders to build atmosphere as the final brake runs are alongside the final stretch of the queue. Speaking of that, this ride features a physically long queue. It too lacks any theming, just some lights whenever the ride cycles, but the extended portion at least offers some fantastic photo opportunities of the coaster dueling. You'll have all your loose articles with you for the start of the queue, but once you reach the lower level of the station building, you will find lockers. There typically is just 10 to 15 minutes worth of queue from this point. As with several other coasters at Universal, these lockers are totally free, and they are double-sided for maximum convenience, but they have been upgraded from the ones at their older parks. For one, they are larger. Whereas the free lockers in rides like Velocicoaster and Revenge of the Mummy struggle to fit more than a tiny Loungefly backpack, the ones at Stardust are much larger and can easily fit most bags and items. 2. These lockers are accessed using facial recognition technology. This means you do not need to carry a locker ticket with you on the ride. Because of this ride's dueling nature and extreme forces, almost everything must go in a locker. You obviously need to store things like your wallet, keys, and cell phone, but some items that are shockingly not allowed include Nintendo power-up bands, and even those celebration buttons they hand out at the hotels. Watches are allowed though, as are glasses. Not sure if you need an athletic strap for glasses, but I strongly recommend one anyway, given how wild this ride's forces are. And please follow the rules. We do not want this coaster losing its ability to duel like Dueling Dragons did. Once you head upstairs, you pass through a metal detector to verify you have stored everything. If they detect anything, you will be sent back to the lockers. Small time-saving tip: select the right lane for the metal detectors. The left lane has one machine, whereas the right side has two, so it moves faster anyway, but the left lane moves extra slow because those with exit passes, VIP passes, and ADA passes are routed over there in front of those waiting for the metal detector. After the metal detectors, you select your side. Both are excellent, but I had a slight preference for the green side. I thought the airtime was a bit stronger in a few of the hills. Typically, I alternated my rides unless one side was significantly shorter. That being said, green usually has a slightly longer wait. I'm not sure if it's because people have a natural bias to go right, or if people have a preference like myself. Usually, it is just an extra train, but there were a few points when yellow had no wait and green had multiple trains queued up. I never saw the opposite happen. There are a few additional things to look out for when you select your side. 1. Make sure the side you select is actively running. There were a few instances when a guest threw up, causing one side to go down for 10 to 15 minutes while they were cleaning up. So if all trains are halted on one side when the other is still cycling, pick the operating side. 2. If you want the front row queue, try and see if it's shorter on one side or the other. There were multiple times when the front row queue had multiple groups on one side, and the other was nearly empty. Staff members typically fill trains front to back, but they're usually happy to honor row requests if you ask nicely. The only exception I noted was at the end of the night. Once the official park closing time hits, they no longer allow row requests. This practice is common at a lot of theme parks, so plan accordingly if you're trying for a specific seat at night. On that note, nighttime is my favorite time to experience this attraction. It is surreal, elegant, and visual overload racing in these illuminated trains. Fortunately, there is not a bad seat in this ride. Every single row offers an ejector airtime buffet. I prefer the back row though. I prefer how the airtime hits in the drops. and more importantly, you get a better view of the opposing train. In the front row, you don't always see the other train if you're winning the race. Despite this ride's immense popularity, it actually has one of the shorter waits in the park most days. That is usually unheard of for a premier coaster at a major park like this. But with Stardust Racers, it is because of its super high throughput. Each train holds a max of 20 riders, as they are comprised of 5 cars with 2 rows of 2, and almost every seat will be filled by the grouper because this ride features a single rider line. Each side is capable of running 4 trains, meaning it can operate with a staggering 8 trains simultaneously. That is insane. During my visits, they typically had 3 per side, and that was more than fine. The crews would load and dispatch trains quickly. The crew isn't quite as fast as the one at Velocicoaster, but it's just a step down from that, and extremely fast overall for a US park. But 99% of the time, the 2 tracks race, so the net capacity is superior to Velocicoaster. The only time the 2 sides don't race is if one is closed for technical issues or a cleanup. Helping the capacity is the fact there are separate load and unload platforms. This means that guests can go directly to their seats, not having to wait for the prior guests to exit. The separate platforms can cause a delay if the ride is on 2 trains, but fortunately, this is an extremely rare occurrence. Per QTimes.com, this ride averages a half-hour wait. During my visits, I noticed the line would routinely spike in the late morning and early afternoon. It then tends to drop from the mid-afternoon onwards. It maxed out as a 60-minute wait when I visited the park on an extremely busy day, but for comparison, most other headlining attractions that day had 2 to 3 hour waits. When I returned on a quiet day, this coaster never had more than a 20-minute wait, and usually it was just 5 or 10 minutes. This ride typically has a short wait first thing in the morning, especially if you have early entry. Although, if you have that perk, I would recommend using that time on a ride that will generate a much longer wait later in the day like Mario Kart. Stardust also tends to have a minimal wait in the evening. Even when I visited on a busy day, Stardust was not more than a 10 to 15 minute wait during the final hour. This is the best way to finish a day off at Epic Universe in my opinion. If you are visiting on an exceptionally busy day, this is part of the Express Pass Skip the Line system. This is very pricey, but you are routed directly to the lockers. This means you shouldn't have to wait more than 10 to 15 minutes max, so it can save a decent chunk of time if the park is slammed. There also is a single rider line. I personally prefer just to use standby, because the line usually is not too long anyways. Plus, I get to stay with my party, select my side, and select my row. If you've ridden any of the newer Mack thrill coasters, the seats will be familiar. They are raised, so your feet dangle. This gives you a lot of freedom. Then you are secured by overhead lap bars. These are snug, but very comfortable. The crew typically will not staple, but there are a few valleys that have a tendency to push the restraint down further. Even when this happens, I have no issue experiencing all this ride's forces because of how those lap bars are profiled. There was one change to the train from the older Mack thrill coasters. Their older thrill coasters had the seat supported just by a T-shaped structure. We've also seen some of those older ones develop a rattle. Nothing I'd call rough or unbearable, but you can definitely feel a light shake. Mack added some additional bracing on Stardust in an attempt to prevent the rattle, and thus far, the coaster is extremely smooth. Hopefully it remains that way as it continues to cycle day after day. It is also worth noting that trains have onboard audio. However, this was extremely temperamental for me. Some trains had absolutely no audio. On other trains, it was so quiet that it was barely audible, or worse, it would cut out shortly after the top hat. I've heard the audio system this ride used was susceptible to high Gs, which explains why it is so spotty. There was one train on the yellow side with excellent audio quality. One really cool detail is how there are 2 separate soundtracks during the daytime and evening. The daytime score sounds like a triumphant tune at the end of an adventure film. The nighttime score is more energetic. These really enhanced the on-ride experience whenever they worked. They got my blood amped up, so hopefully the park can find a way to get the audio working consistently on all the trains. Now let's run through the layout, breaking down each element one by one. I'll talk about both sides together, but I will note whenever each layout deviates. Stardust Racers begins with a gradual downward slope out of the station. You turn 180 degrees so you're underneath the station. This is where you'll find the ride's first launch. Actually, it technically is the ride's first two launches. You see, the ride's storage shed is located underneath the station, so the transfer track is uniquely located halfway down the launch track. As a result, you have an initial bank of LSMs, an LSM-free transfer track, and then a second bank of LSMs. In terms of presentation, I love this launch. The enclosed tunnel and fog enhance the sense of speed. Then it's super cool launching alongside the other train. For the best visuals, you want to sit in the outermost seat of each track relative to the load platform. The launches also surprised me with their power. Mack coasters are typically known for having relatively mild accelerations. Stardust is an exception. The first set of LSMs offers a solid kick. That second bank of LSMs provides a fantastic boost. I was especially caught off guard on my first ride because I did not realize the LSMs were split into two separate sections. This second yank is quite abrupt, and is the strongest launch I've ever felt on a Mack coaster. This has to be one of my favorite launches out there between the power and presentation. When you emerge, you traverse a top hat. This offers great sustained ejector all throughout the train. I especially like how this hits in the rear rows though. You get floater in the ascent, then that turns into extreme ejector in the descent. It is worth knowing there's a trim on the drop, but you can't really feel it, so it's no bother at all. The pullout is super tight, so you are slammed back in your seat while experiencing very strong positive Gs. Next is a turnaround hill. It starts off as half a camelback, so you get solid floater in the front rows. Then, you twist 180 degrees back down to ground level. While you don't get any airtime in the back cars, you get solid laterals instead. Because of how open these trains are, you are really flung sideways anytime you experience laterals. Both sides then fly over camelbacks. Yellow crosses over green, so those on the green side get an incredible head chopper. It offers good sustained ejector in the front half of the train, and excellent sustained ejector in the back cars. I love how you're yanked down the drop, which is a repeated theme in the first half. Next is what appears to be another camelback. This time green is on top, so yellow gets their chance to experience a terrifying head chopper. This hill does feel different depending which side you're on though. Since yellow needs to cross over the brake run, it cannot drop all the way down, so you have two elevated bunny hills that essentially create a double up. The first hump only offers some okay floater in the back, because you barely drop at all, but the second offers decent ejector in the rear rows. In front, you get decent ejector on both those hills. Green, meanwhile, is a double down on the opposite side of the station. It has two steep humps. The first offers decent ejector for all. The second offers great sustained ejector. It is particularly sweet in the back car because once again you are yanked over the top, and it subtly turns left as well, so you get some surprise laterals along with those negative Gs. Green then continues with a double up. The first hump offers a quick ejector pop in front, and some floater in the back. But the second hump is where this element truly shines. The crest is ultra tight, so it offers extreme ejector airtime. I think it's a bit more powerful in the front, but it is more sustained in the back because you drop back down to ground level. Yellow meanwhile has a double down. Both humps offer strong ejector. It is just more sustained on the second hill because it's considerably larger. This is where the two tracks link back up. Both sides have a low turn whizzing past each other. The head-on duel is exciting because all the other duels have the trains racing instead. This near miss is made even better by the fog. And if you ride it at night, there are light panels that twinkle concurrently. Then the turn itself offers solid Gs anyway as a bonus. The two tracks briefly separate once again. Yellow has an S-hill over the station. This is pretty drawn out, so it only offers weak to okay floater. Green meanwhile has a much sharper bunny hill. This offers better floater airtime along with some laterals. The two tracks are now side by side once again for the next launch. and they'll stay alongside each other for the remainder of the ride. I love the audio sound that blasts during this launch. It sounds like a turbo boost straight from a video game. And that visual racing the other train is once again excellent. This launch can feel wildly different depending upon how the trains are positioned. At minimum, it has solid power. This happens if you're ahead in the race. But if you're behind, the ride compensates with boost mode. You get a far more powerful jolt forwards so you can catch up to the other train. It is an exhilarating moment. This is comparable in strength to the second launch when it happens. Now it is time for Stardust's signature element, the Celestial Spin. This is a unique double inversion. The way the two tracks interact during this maneuver is incredible. There's a reason Mack actually trademarked this element. Has this ever happened with a specific coaster element before? I know manufacturers have patented specific technology, but not a pure maneuver before. Beyond those visuals, the Celestial Spin is uber forceful as well. Yellow has a camelback, followed by a barrel roll down drop. In front, you get solid floater over the top, then you have a strong lateral kink into the barrel roll and you stay levitating for the entire descent. In back, you start with some floater over the top, then that turns into pure ejector airtime, while also experiencing those powerful laterals of the barrel roll. It really feels like you'll be laterally ejected from the train. Green does the inverse. You have a barrel roll in the ascent, followed by a steep drop. In front, you get nice sustained floater through the entire element. In back, you have lovely floater in the inversion, then it switches over to a sustained ejector in the descent. I think the maneuver feels more unhinged on the yellow side because of how it mixes laterals in with the negative Gs, but it's amazing on either side. Both sides follow up with a large L turn. It's not too extreme in terms of forces. It offers weak laterals at the apex in front, then those in back get a tiny pop of air on the drop when the track straightens out. The element is more notable for how the two tracks are mere feet from each other. Now it's time for the far turnaround. The entry is a giant S-hill. This offers a powerful ejector pop and lateral jolt simultaneously. I was caught off guard by the tenacity on my first ride, and it certainly feels like you'll smack the adjacent train due to the sheer power. Both sides have a low high-speed turn. These exert strong positive Gs, the most sustained instance of them on the ride. I think they hit a bit harder on the green side, as I would routinely gray out there. I would only sometimes gray out on the yellow side, but don't let that fool you, it is still very powerful over there. You have a shallow dip back down to ground level. This only offers weak floater. It too is more notable for the near miss with the opposing train, particularly on the yellow side because you duck underneath the other track. Both rise and fly over an off-axis bunny hill. Both bank slightly inwards to create a fun near miss. The yellow side offers decent sustained ejector and laterals throughout the train. The green side, however, offers noticeably stronger ejector and laterals. I think the profiling might be slightly sharper. Both sides then jump into the brakes, giving a good ejector pop for all. You then pass underneath the finish line, denoting who won. It's easy to miss, but really everyone just won. Everyone just experienced one of the world's best coasters. The brakes then slow you down, and you return to the unload platform. This is an incredibly long coaster. Both tracks have roughly 5,000 feet, or 1,524 meters of track. This makes it the longest coaster Mack has ever designed, beating all their prior hypercoasters and their previous launch coasters. From the first launch to final brake run, the coaster is roughly 70 seconds of prime ride time. That is extremely long. That makes it 5 seconds longer than Velocicoaster for reference, so this ride certainly packs a lot in. Stardust also has phenomenal pacing. The sense of speed is awesome. The trains move at a good clip anyway, but the racing element and near misses accentuate that. Then a majority of the elements hit as well, and the ones that are a bit weaker in terms of power are smartly paired with near misses, so they end up being strong elements overall. It is also worth noting the dueling aspect makes the airtime hit harder, since you often find yourself looking sideways or upwards to gaze at the other train. It throws off your equilibrium when you experience those negative Gs, particularly when you're yanked downwards on a drop. What would I rate Stardust Racers? If it's not already apparent, this ride is earning a perfect 10 out of 10. I think each track in a vacuum alone would earn that score. Then when you add that dueling aspect, the ride becomes truly epic. It is incredible seeing the quantity and quality of the near misses. Then the elements are world class as well. Both sides are loaded with ejector airtime, and many of those moments are strong and sustained. Few coasters are better in this department. Then you also have some forceful launches, a fantastic one-of-a-kind inversion in the celestial spin, some good lateral moments, and intense valleys exerting positive Gs. And if you have a train with working audio, it is the chef's kiss on top of everything. I came off all my rides smiling ear to ear and could not wait to get back in line. Is this the best ride Epic Universe? For a coaster fan such as myself, yes it is. For comparison, this ended up being one of my wife's least favorite rides at the park. She liked the ride, but she preferred the other attractions that were more highly themed. Is this the best ride in Universal Orlando? Velocicoaster is incredible, but I prefer the airtime and dueling on Stardust Racers. And lastly, is this the best ride in Florida? Yes. Iron Gwazi and Velocicoaster had been neck and neck for my favorite ride in the Sunshine State, but Stardust vaulted above both of them. It is a truly special experience that any coaster fan needs to have on their bucket list. Those are my thoughts on Stardust Racers, the headlining roller coaster at Universal's new Epic Universe. What are your thoughts on this coaster? Is it your new favorite ride in Florida as well? Let me know down in the comments. Additionally, if you prefer one side or the other, let me know and share why. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you consider subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.